Welcome to News from the Flagpoles. I'm Sadbh.
And I'm Gary. Here are the headlines.
First, we're on the River Shannon, where locals protest a proposed pipeline to Peamount Reservoir in Dublin.
We analysed the absence of pay for student nurses in comparison to their fully qualified counterparts.
And finally, in fashion, we get a glimpse into the process of local independent designers. To Ballina now, where a boat rally is taking place in protest of a proposed 170-kilometre pipeline from the River Shannon to Peamount Reservoir in Dublin. The estimated €6 billion project will pump 300 million litres of water daily to address the critical water needs of the Midlands. Cusack with more.
Where the Shannon River flows, contention grows. Killaloe is awash today with dozens of boats driven by mariners from the Lough Derg Anglers Association. The rally is in protest of the Water Supply Project, a pipeline which the Shannon River Protection Alliance believes will leave the river but a dribble to live on during future dry summers.
A lot of people in the general public aren't aware of the proposed pipeline and also its location. 1 kilometre south of the beautiful town of Ballina. And since they had a meeting here in the Lakeside Hotel back in 2018 when they first did a public consultation showing the general public what their proposed idea was. We still have a sour taste in the angling community from the last major project in the area of the ESB hydroelectric scheme. There is still massive environmental impacts between fish stocks, migratory fish, and habitats being disrupted.
There is absolutely no way in which you can look at the proposed construction of a pipe from Limerick to Dublin and make sense.
Say to Ishgarden, you have taken the most destructive, most difficult, most expensive plan. It's 5 times the cost of the Children's Hospital. Please reconsider this plan and let common sense prevail.
Save our Shannon! Save our Shannon!
Rivergoers and Ishka-Éireann stakeholders alike are eagerly awaiting the watershed decision on the pipeline application this June. Until then, we will all be holding our breath, waiting to find out whether this plan sinks or swims. Cusack, News from the Flagpoles, Aherne.
Next up, we'll take a look at the issue facing student nurses not receiving pay for their mandatory clinical placement blocks. These nurses, who can take on the workload of a fully qualified nurse during a standard day on placement, receive minimal compensation for their work from the HSE and are becoming increasingly overworked, exhausted and frustrated by the situation. Here's Aherne with more.
Student nurses are the backbone of Ireland's healthcare system, but many are working full-time hours on clinical placement without pay, saying this stretched healthcare system is pushing them to the brink.
We've given so much of our time to helping people and making people feel better, and we're the ones suffering for it.
For student nurses, the pressure doesn't just stop at the hospital doors. The course is intense, with recent surveys showing close to 20% of students drop out after first year of the degree.
It's a really mentally demanding course, and I think that's potentially part of why the dropout rate is so high for nursing. It's something you really do want to have to do, but it can be at the expense of your mental health and even at your physical health.
These student nurses can work up to 60 hours a week before including coursework, often in overcrowded wards.
You're supernumerary when you're there as a nurse, which means you shouldn't be counted in the roster when you're a student. But 9 times out of 10 you are. They don't have a choice but to. They need the extra set of hands. So the fact that we're in no way compensated for that to me I just find a bit crazy.
With these mounting pressures, many feel leaving the country may be their only option.
We have worked so hard to become a nurse, and we were shown nothing for it. So there's no wonder that people are leaving. There's no system in place to actually help students.
If this financial benefit isn't added by the HSE in the next few years, the nurses leaving in their droves will only continue to increase. With a financial benefit, we could see a boost to these nurses' mental health, their physical health, and maybe a boost in their grades as they get more time to complete their college assignments. This has been Aherne, News from the Flagpoles at the University of Limerick.
Now to Limerick, where a new generation of designers are attempting to find their way in the fashion industry. From handmade woolen hats to revamped vintage clothing, local designers are building their brands from the ground up, relying on spaces like the Limerick printmakers to make it big. Cusack with more.
Making your way in the fashion industry can be a grueling task. The pressures of time and money leave many in stitches before they find success. Leah Marshall's line of boutique woolen hats has recently made waves in the local scene.
After I graduated college, I had loads of leftover yarn, and I just wanted to make something with it, so I don't know, the easiest thing for me to make was a hat. I was just posting them on social media and loads of people started seeing it, and then I just started getting loads of people asking me where to get them. I'll go to work and then I'll come home and then just have to start work again. But I only take 15 a month, so I know that I can get all of those done.
Doze transforms second-hand clothing through unique handmade designs. He relies on spaces like the Limerick printmakers in order to produce his work.
I started it in 2023, 2024 kind of time. Basically it's a kind of way of making money from my printmaking practice. People just give me stuff, which is very handy. I've just got a big kind of backlog of stuff at home where whenever I'm in a charity shop or a cheap kind of vintage shop, I pick up a few bits. Right now I'm kind of in the process of looking for a studio space. So the Limerick printmakers here is for making my screens and with all the equipment that they have here. But I'd really like my own space and print t-shirts in there, but there isn't really a lot of spaces for that in Limerick, and if they are, they're the same amount as rented apartments.
Funding for the arts is short-term and incredibly competitive. Independent designers like Marsh Girl and Doze are just two examples of Limerick's burgeoning art scene. With stable funding and studio space, these brands could go into beautiful businesses that support a whole community of artists. Mark Cusack, news from the Flagpoles, Limerick printmakers.
Now to David for our sporting updates.
Hello everyone and welcome to Sports News from the Flagpoles. It's a huge night for the Republic of Ireland as they travel to Prague to take on Czechia in a must-win game if they wish to keep their World Cup dreams alive. Over 6,000 Irish fans have travelled hoping for a night they will never forget. Kick-off is at 7:45 with Heimir Hallgrimsson's side looking to build on their November results and secure a historic result on the road for the boys in green. Now to GEA, where the Allianz League football finals are taking place in Croke Park this weekend, with all 4 divisions being wrapped up over the course of the 2 days. On Sunday, the underdogs Meath play Cork in the Division 2 final. Throw in theirs at 1:45 p.m. Then all eyes will turn to the Division 1 final between hot favourites Kerry and Donegal, where the league champions will be crowned. Concerns have been raised about anti-doping testing in Irish club rugby after an investigation revealed just how few tests have been carried out in the All-Ireland League. Just 2 tests were conducted last season and only 34 in total over the past decade, despite an estimated 3,000 registered players competing each year. The findings have prompted questions about whether current testing levels are enough to act as a deterrent for players in the AIL.
No matter the sport or the corner of the world, drug testing is an absolute necessity. Closer to home, it has been uncovered that testing in the All-Ireland Rugby League has been inconsistent, to say the least.
And due to its amateur status, players may find it difficult to have as strong a voice as they would in the professional game.
Journalism student Chris Ben had concerns about testing in the league, and he sought answers.
I sent off the first email, got the response that they actually didn't test in the AIL, which surprised me because the IRFU said they did on their website, and in correspondence with them I found out that Sport Ireland should be testing. So they came back to me then, Sport Ireland, and said that they actually did test, but that they just made a mistake the first time around. So I ended up finding the exact yearly figures in public information as opposed to the FOI. So they told me that 2 tests were carried out last year, and then the FOI showed me that those 2 tests were carried out on the day of the final, which is quite specific. So, and then player testimony told me that that's quite known in the community. If you're not making it to the final, you're probably not getting tested in the AIL.
The lack of drug testing is concerning in relation to clean sport, but the lack of a deterrent can also leave young players vulnerable in a sport where individuals are expected to make large physical gains quickly.
To refer back to the interviews I did, Matthew Sheehan, he would have played 5 years in the AIL between 2 different clubs, and he's qualified in sports and exercise science. So he actually had a really interesting perspective on this. And he was saying that the numbers of testing wouldn't fully deter a player from, in his opinion, of course, this is all his opinion, wouldn't deter a player from potentially trying to get that quick step ahead, quick edge, physical, the gains that steroids can give you are much more noticeable in this sport as opposed to some other games. So it is a big concern.
For the IRFU and Sport Ireland, rectifying the issue will be their next test. Conor Power, news from the Flagpoles, Limerick.
From the stands to the screen, the success of the Irish women's national team has had a knock-on effect on Treaty United's women's team's popularity here in Limerick. Crowds are growing, interest in the squad is building, and the profile of the club continues to climb. That progress has now reached a national audience, with TG Cahir broadcasting games and shining a spotlight on the team's success.
The last decade of Irish football has largely belonged to the girls in green, but while the international stage goes from strength to strength, has the FAI seen that success trickle down the domestic game?
In Ireland, when I first got here 3 years ago, we were getting good fans, but I think every year I've been here we've gotten a better turnout, more people are watching the games.
Treaty United player Anna Rocket has experience of foreign leagues, primarily in North America.
And then in the US as well, my first couple years maybe weren't as many fans, but the farther along I got, the older I got, more fans started coming out. So I would say every year is getting better, but like when you have success, people come out and watch.
Success breeds success, and the rise of the game in the national sphere has created greater awareness on a more local scale.
People in the community in Limerick seem to recognize Treaty more now than they did when I first got here. If I say I play for Treaty, or if I'm wearing a Treaty top out in public, people are like, oh, are you on the senior women's team? It's been very exciting to see that growth.
And this growth has seen a rise in broadcasting, with TG Cahir now regularly televising matches free to air, bringing more eyes to the league.
You don't have to pay for TG Cahir, like you have to pay for LOI TV, and not much people are gonna, like they might say, oh, they'll support women's football, but they're not going to pay the $10.99 or whatever it is. But it's great to be on TG Cahir because they can just tune in, even if they stumble across it while flipping through channels.
We find ourselves in a golden age of Irish women's football, at the top at least. The FAI now must tie it all together. Conor Power from the Flagpole News, Limerick.
Now for the weather, we'll hand it over to Hamza Salha.
Welcome to the weather. Here's a quick update for Limerick weather for today. Today is mostly cloudy, with temperature degrees ranging between 10 and 11, staying cool throughout the day. Scattered showers are expected over the next few days, especially into Friday and the weekend, so keep the umbrella close to you. Temperatures will remain mild, ranging between 10 and 14 degrees, with cloudy skies over the next week. Overall, a typical Irish forecast: cloudy, cool and wet at times. Stay warm and have a great day.
That's all from News at the Flagpoles.
Have a good evening.